Hello and welcome. My name is Mansoor. I am a subject matter expert for ELT with Macmillan Education. We will be talking today a little bit about how to practice reading skills in a virtual environment. So the basic structure does not change. More or less all stages remain theme linked, just as you would do if you were using a print book. So for example, you start with a warm up as an introduction to the theme. Just how you do it is a little different as compared to a traditional textbook in a classroom setup. But you do start with a warm up, and from then on you go over to the actual reading. Even how the reading is done is a little different because obviously in an online setup the teacher has to keep up communication at all the times and make sure that the students are actively engaged and they're not just passively reading or passively listening. You have to keep checking for understanding, which most teachers also do in a conventional classroom setup. A little bit of reading happens, and then there are quick, simple questions just to make sure that students are following what they're reading. But this becomes more important when reading skills are being practiced online. Finally, there has to be a discussion on what has been read. End of lesson questions could be converted into actually in text questions, so you don't have to wait right till the end of the lesson for students to attempt those questions. So there's a little bit of a difference in how you go about presenting and teaching the material when you are online as compared to how you teach the same material when you're doing in a conventional classroom using the printed book. So we'll look at a few things today. You might be using any book of any of the publishers in the classroom. What I'm going to do today is show you a few examples from Macmillan's English Fairy. So we'll just look at the digital version of the book which I have here for you. This book is for class 5. So let's go to page 40 as an example. Now this is a unit which has for its theme, just a second, courage and sports. So the text that we are dealing with here is on Arunima Sinha, Born Again. Now, instead of the warm-up that is there in the book, it is possible to have a different kind of warm-up for the students. So as I said in my previous video, there is a need for the teacher to be really creative when teaching online. For example, you could ask your students simply to listen to something that you're going to play for them, and then you're going to ask them a few questions. So you could actually just play the opening of this text for them just to listen to while they are not looking at the text.
Born Again, Arunima Sinha. Reading. Read this interesting passage on one of the bravest mountaineers of India. One step. Take one step at a time. Don't give up. I think we should turn back. A slope is too difficult. The Sherpa's voice interrupted Arunima's thoughts as she took one painful step after another up the steep slope of Mount Everest. She turned to him. I will not turn back. I will climb to the summit.
So they listen to this little bit of the text, and then you can ask them certain questions. Say for example, what did they which words they heard, or can you predict what we are going to read about in the text? So in a sense, we have to find, as teachers, we have to find creative and interactive ways to use the digital version of the book. So if you are using whatever textbook you're using, it might not help to really stick conventionally to the book. Technology makes it possible for you to combine skills in interesting ways, just as we saw right now. It was possible for us to link listening with reading. So listening, predicting, discussing, leading up to reading. So that here in this case, the children heard a little bit of the text, they listened to it, and then based on a few of the words that they might have caught, they are asked to predict what they are likely to read in the story or in the text. You might even ask them to give reasons why they are saying so. So there's a little bit of discussion, and then that can lead up to reading. So the reading can also happen in small bits. So you can ask one student to read a little bit, then ask the other students to read some more. You should also have a few quick questions ready to check comprehension while reading. Now, for example, you could also make use of this instead of the text.
Don't give up.
I think we should turn back. The slope is too difficult.
The mountain loomed before them. As she continued the climb, Arunima's thoughts went back to the incident on 11.
So one doesn't have to really stick to the way reading happens in a conventional classroom. Reading can be brought alive with the help of visuals. Try to move away from conventional ideas and use as many visual aids as possible. This was one way of doing it. You can also have, with a little bit of research from the internet, you can have plenty of other visual material. Read in small chunks for attention. Remember, the students are not there physically in front of you in a classroom, so you have to find a way of making sure that their attention is there with you. You can also turn end of lesson questions in the book into in-text questions. So for example, let me show you what I mean by this. You have questions at the end. So say for example, this true and false. You can have this with you, and when the students have read the first little portion, you can ask them the first two questions and ask them to tell you whether it's true or false. So one doesn't have to wait right at the till the end of the chapter for the questions to appear. Okay, so then we have quickly create a comprehension. I have mentioned this. You can create a comprehension worksheet which can then serve as a graded home assignment. This can also be done using some of the tools that we have. For example, with English Ferry, we have something called the test generator. So you can use this tool to create worksheets. The computer is a little slow, so it's taking a bit of time. So for example, you can choose the chapter. This is what we were dealing with, and then you can choose the type of questions, the difficulty level. So it goes further, what kind of questions you want, how many questions you want, and you keep on doing this, and it leads you to creating a worksheet for students which can be used as home assignment. So instead of having your end of lesson questions, you can have a worksheet for them, and you can convert the end of lesson questions into in-text questions as the reading is happening. So this is what I meant when I said that we need to be quite creative with how we use texts, and we need to move a little bit away from how we've been teaching reading or any other skill for that matter in a conventional classroom. So I'll stop here for the while, and we'll meet again soon.